how do we close that common gap between that preferred and expected future? So I started a company a number of months ago, and I was looking at all these studies over time and what we have and what David and Juliet have been working on, and something was coming up all the time that I was really perplexed about. So I was looking at, particularly recently, 2 case studies in Ireland. One of them was tallow, which David focused on. No, the other one was a long-term community engagement process that David and Juliet worked on called Future West Cork. And again, I was perplexed. There seemed to be a common thread running through those 2 and all of the other studies. So it was that disparity between the preferred and expected futures, and I looked at text analysis and the words used and what people wanted and what they expected, and it was the same. They just wanted one thing and they expected the other. So they wanted the future of optimism, balance and vitality, but they didn't think they'd ever get it. So then I was thinking about community. And our studies, future IQ studies, show time and time again that participants view community as that key preferred scenario. It's key to the preferred scenario. Everybody always says community is the number one thing, connected to the 2030 preferred scenario. Community, then energy, then local, then food, tourism, right the way down, but it's always community. And then I was thinking, indeed, what is community? Mark Redman highlighted yesterday about the difference in the interpretation of the word networks. And I always felt that there was that same issue for the word community. And Al touched on this earlier, indeed, what is community? Most people see it as a geographical notion. However, community is a concept, it's not tangible. It depends if you're a place person or a people person, as Al said. Indeed, Hillary in the 1950s said had 94 definitions for the word community. And then you have Cohen, who talks about boundary and meaning. A lot of people would think of community as geographical, as a place, towns, regions, etc. But Cohen talked about boundary and meaning, and that communities are best approached as communities of meaning. In other words, that communities play a crucial symbolic role in generating people's sense of belonging to a place. And he also said that the reality of community lies in its members' perception of the vitality of its culture. So there's a connection. And Lord Putnam mentioned the word blowing earlier, and I'm very familiar with that word blowing because I'm English living in Ireland for the last 17 years. Blowing means somebody who's moved into the area, but doesn't originally come from that area. So they don't share those symbols, they don't share those sense of maybe the history, the parents and grandparents and all of that. So, and even the word blowing to me is really interesting because it's like the sense of tumbleweed, of like you're not belonging anywhere. Okay, so the sense of boundary and meaning is like who's in and who's out. Okay, so which leads me on to language. We've heard through our studies common responses like, yeah, okay, we've heard it all 50 years ago. Let's see if it's going to be put into practice. It's all wishful thinking. So, like David touched on earlier, what happens when a community comes around a vision in the future, in the next 20 or 30 years? The language used is like bustling, tourists, youth, employment, energy, vibrant, focused, attractive. And then the language used when a community doesn't come around a vision is things like dead, dormant, decrepit, all those things. But then I started thinking, okay, this is really familiar to me. I had a degree and a master's in sociology, and it's very much like alienation. You know, alienation, but it isn't the same, because it's not about the person being removed from the end product of their labour, although as people know there's lots of forms of alienation. But it's social alienation, and that is my theory. And Kalekin Fishman, and this would have been great up on the slide, but he said a person suffers from alienation in the form of powerlessness when he is conscious of the gap between what he would like to do and what he feels capable of doing. That is exactly what we see in the preferred and expected futures. And then some people really want to be part of the community, but then they feel sometimes that they're alienated from it. Okay, or what does community mean? This is another slide which I was going to put up, which was like, people are asked, how would you contribute? Or, if you're interested, how might you contribute to making a shared vision a reality for West Hall, for example? And the language is so interesting. It's always, I'll come to a meeting, I'll participate. And again, it refers back to what we were talking about yesterday, about how people come to things, but often there's no action. As Linda said yesterday, the Putnam quote, Robert Putnam, about people, the action should lead on from coming together. So people say, I'll share ideas, I'll participate in meetings, I'll be involved. But they don't own the process, there's no power in the process, they come across as observers, there's participation, but the big thing is there's no leadership. And the other thing we've noticed in West Cork, and I'm not sure if David would agree, but there's community in villages and villages and towns, but there's less of a sense of community in the region, so there's different affiliations that way. So this is my conclusion, and this is a long quote, and I know we've had lots of quotes, okay, but how do we overcome social alienation and bring people together? So it's Paget in 2007, and he said, activity, which is a defining feature that distinguishes living from non-living, characterizes life and purpose of beings. Freedom, another defining feature, characterizes the ability to engage in all activities and to develop capacities also central to life and purpose. Together, these concepts form a part of the basis of a genuinely human life, a life in which purposeful activities actualized in the context of freedom, self-expression, and fulfillment. So activity basically leads to freedom, self-expression, and fulfillment. The challenge, however, is how to mature participation so that people are active in and living the process, and they're not on the outside looking in. Declan Jordan said yesterday that there are no answers. If you can find a good question, you're doing well. I think there has to be a way forward. With leadership programs, youth involvement. I've had ideas for working in West Cork on youth leadership programs, combining the two, and that's my wrap up. I hope to get some clarity personally on it, but also for